It's Shel C from PaperOcotilloStudio, and today I'm sharing with you days 2, 3, and 4 of the Artist Trading Card a Day 2018 challenge. A couple of these were recorded during the Art Joy Sharing live stream show last week, so they're bits and pieces. But at the beginning, I was talking about different types of substrates that you can make ATCs out of, and then also how to store them. This is my binder, which has a lot of ATCs in it. You can make them on playing cards if you want to, old playing cards. I tend to use 140-pound watercolor paper cut into the size 3.5 by 2.5. And then for my challenge this month, I'm planning on using this bucket and then this little container of things that are like scraps left over that I haven't stored, and also lots of Happy Mail type things. So for day 2, my card was all about tea, and I've been saving some of these tea bags. One of them you can see there is open, and the other one is still closed, but I've emptied the tea out of it. I drink a lot of tea, and my card was inspired by that die cut that I received in Happy Mail, and I can no longer remember who I received it from, but I have this box that's lots of different little things that I've received over the years in Happy Mail, and I just store them in the box, and then I get them out to do little projects like this. Artist trading cards, tags, things like that are great for all these little bits and pieces, especially if you enjoy collage, which I really do. That's my favorite thing. I like to glue stuff to stuff. That is my 100% favorite thing to do. So I started out by gluing down the flattened out tea bag, which is just kind of like tea stained paper. And then I glued the one that actually looks like a tea bag along with its string and its little taggy thing onto my 140-pound cold press watercolor paper that's been cut. And then my little die cut, I'm gluing to this scrap that's out of my scrap box that is a piece of paper that is from Carolyn Doobie. She has a channel and she has a blog and she has a lot of stuff. And one of the things she has is a newsletter. And I used to actually read it. I haven't read it recently, but she would send these things that she called sparks of artsploration, which were just basically colorful, painty papers that she had um, scanned, and then she just sends a digital copy. And I printed a few of them out one time for a project. I'll link the project in the iCard above if I remember. It's a canvas that I made for one of my friends, and I used a lot of those papers and then like cut them in these swirly, squiggly lines, and made this collage piece for my best friend that I sent to her. It was about goal setting and plans for the year. So all I did was just glue my die cut that I received in the Happy Mail over that scrap of the paper, cut it out, then I cut the insides out with a X-Acto knife. And just be careful not to cut yourself when you do that. I frequently do. Then I collage that on with my liquid matte medium over my card with my tea bags on it. And then I'm using a um, Faber-Castell Pit Artist Brush Pen. And this is just kind of a gray taupe color. It's a very neutral color to add shadows and things around the cups and through the cups so that they blend into the background so that it's not just looking like something that's glued on the top. It really helps. And you can, of course, blend that with your finger for a couple seconds before it dries, so it works really well. I also used a white Posca pen to add highlights. Then I used potting soil archival ink to sponge around the edges. I think that gives it a finished look. I either like to layer my pieces onto another piece, trim them down and layer them onto another piece of cardstock, or else, you know, sponge or paint around the edges because I think they need to be finished around the edges. It bothers me if they're just floating. So then I used a couple words from one of the Tim Holtz sticker sets. I'll be using these a lot during this month because they are the perfect size for ATCs and tags and things like that. And they have there's words or there's sayings. That one's just two words out of one of them, simple joy, because I love tea. I love to drink tea. It just makes me happy. So that was my celebration of tea. So for day 3, I have this stamped image that was sent to me in Happy Mail, and I can tell already that it's not permanent ink because I have at some point, sometime, I dropped a drip of water on it and it smeared. So I know that I'm going to need to seal that. And then I have all these other little papers that I pulled out of that box of extra scraps from projects and things that I have just sitting by my desk. When I'm too lazy to sort my scraps, I just put them in there. I do sometimes sort my scraps and put them into color boxes, but sometimes I'm too lazy. So as you can see, I used my matte medium to seal up that mermaid piece. And then I have this little 4x4 stencil from Strumpet Stencils on Etsy. It's Sarah Trump, and she has a lot of very interesting stencils. And this one's a circular shape with a nautilus. And I thought that that was perfect. I also like the colors turquoise or teal with copper, so I decided to add that shell to my background using some copper paint, and then I'm also sponging around the edges with the copper paint. Turquoise or teal and copper just go together. That's all there is to it. And copper is the best metallic. I know I've told you that before. I'm going to tell you again. It's the best metallic. So then I fussy cut out the mermaid image, and this is taking me a minute, I can see. I don't usually leave this in. I guess I just didn't remember to cut it out. But yeah, it's just cut around it, and I'm going to attach her to the card, and I know that I will be okay with putting that on with matte medium because I've already sealed it and it's dried, so I know that that black ink's not going to smear all over the place. That's an important thing to do. Then with the leftover paint, the leftover copper paint, I'm adding a little bit of copper. I've got some portrait pink, and I guess I just used straight portrait pink. Or no, maybe I added some titanium white. I don't know. Anyway, I'm painting over her skin. I don't think she needs to be turquoise all the way through. So the hair, the skin, and the shells and things I will paint using acrylic paint and a teeny tiny brush. And remember, these little cards are tiny, tiny, tiny. They're only like the size of a baseball card or a Yu-Gi-Oh card or a Pokemon card. You know, those little cards, that's what size they are. So perfection is never going to be achieved unless you have 30-30 perfect close-up vision, like not even 20-20, but 30-30. I mean, you really got to be right up against it to see every little detail. But once I was done painting everything, then I went back over it with a illustration pen just to bring back the lines and everything, that's important. And then to add sparkle and shimmer, I used a Spectrum Noir uh, glitter or sparkle pen. It's just clear glitter, and it has a brush tip, and I went over the hair and the tail with that. Then I added a little star that was from a sticker sheet from a long time ago. Just little things like that. Adding little bits and bobs really helps. So that was day 3's ATC for the hashtag event ATC a day 2018. So day 4. Day 4, I decided that I had these leftover watercolors from my Pick-a-Stick Challenge page. I was making swirly stuff on watercolor paper, and these are very intense liquid watercolors from Dr. P.H. Martin, and I had used this little palette, and they're left over in the palette that they're dried up now. So I used a water brush from Arteza. This is a water tank brush that has water inside of the barrel, so it's easy to activate these paints without worrying about getting 2 buckets of water and da da da, and you got to do this and rinse and this and get water from that, that whole thing. I just wanted it to be easy. I wanted to just make some dots on this watercolor paper. This is again 140-pound cold pressed watercolor paper cut into 2.5 by 3.5 inches. So I'm just making dots, literally just dots, and I'm varying the colors as I go down the card, and it's just fun. It's relaxing to do something like this. I don't have to get out anything. This palette's still on my desk, just sitting there. I need to put it away some point, but what I'm trying to do for this artist trading card challenge all the month of June, I need to make a card each day. I just want to use the stuff that's around me. I don't want to get out anything. I don't want to make any big plans. I don't want to fuss about it. I just want to play with the stuff that I have that's readily available to my hands. So that's what I'm doing, is just using the watercolor that was already on the desk. I don't need to get anything else out. This is gesso. Gesso sits right by my desk, so in a rolling cart thing. So my 2-inch brayer and some gesso over that to kind of calm everything down just a tiny bit, but also to seal it, because I know I'm going to be making more layers over the top of this. Not sure what I'm doing, just winging it. So this little wooden card of washi tapes is sitting next to my desk area that was sent to me in Happy Mail. I think I pulled it out of that box. I put a piece of washi tape on there. It's kind of a foil washi tape. And then I was looking for some other stuff to go with it. And so I just pulled out some different things from my box of scraps. Some of those scraps have been in there for 3 years. I mean, literally, they have not been used. So I do occasionally do something that I call tags from the desk, which I make a tag using that box of stuff. But more stuff keeps going in it, and not everything comes out of it. So you see where I'm going with this project. I'm going to use up some of these scraps. So pulled out a piece of scrap tissue paper that's black with silver dots, and that brought in a dark neutral. And then I used another little scrap of some gel printed paper with stencils on it. I found this dog. Um, at one point, I made a project for. They changed their name. What were they originally? I think it's changed to like Picture Box or something like that. But it's Story Blocks. That's what it is. Story Blocks. It used to have a different name, and they asked me to collaborate with them for a video. So I did. I'll try to find that video too if I remember. And I had a whole printed sheet from them of, because I purchased, because it's a, you pay a fee, monthly fee, and then you can get all this stuff. There's all kinds of vectors and backgrounds and paper, just all kinds of stuff that you can print. Once you've paid the fee, it's copyright free. So I had a sheet of dogs, and I only used one of the dogs off the sheet, and that other little dog there that's been trimmed out was from the sheet. So I'm using him, and then I had like a torn piece of dictionary paper that I had torn off the parts that had the pictures. You know how in a dictionary when you're flipping through, there's sometimes little drawings. And this little boy was to go with pajama, the word pajama, and it was like an illustration to go with the definition of pajama. And I thought, a boy and his dog. And I thought that would be cute, a boy and his dog. And of course, his dog must be named Spot, because not only does he have a spot on his eye, but also there's spots all over the card. So you can see where my brain was going with that. I just tore out the little boy and I attached him down in the corner. And it also balances the card because it needed something down in that corner. And I could have put, anything. I could have put a flower or whatever, but this little boy I just thought went with it perfectly. So then I'm using still those leftover watercolor paints that are dried in my palette to just kind of add some shadow and highlights and make the picture more dynamic. I colored his pajamas, and then pink and yellow makes a peachy color that's skin. So I made a diluted corally peachy color to color his skin. I made him have blonde hair since I didn't have any brown and I didn't feel like making it. Um, just that, this and that. I used the purple for shadows on the dog and then a little bit of pink on his cheeks. Um, then I glued this card down to a black background to kind of balance that extra black that I added to the card as a neutral. This is collage. This is the true form of just adding disparate pieces of things that don't necessarily go together and putting them in a way that makes something pleasing to the eye. And it's just, I just love to do it. I love to do it. It's my favorite. So then I cut a little piece off of something else and I wrote a boy and his dog on it just to add the phrase to the card in case you don't get it, in case you don't understand what I was going for there. Probably nobody gets it. It's only me who understands these weird things that I do. I decided I needed a little bit of yellow halo around the dog just to blend him a little bit. And I think I bring in an illustration pin. Yes, I get out my Pit illustration pins so that I can just make a few more black lines and fill in a few black lines that have been trimmed off the dog and stuff. Because I'm fussy like that. I'm really fussy like that. I also am making these lines to kind of uh, make the horizontal line heavier because I've got a vertical and a horizontal, which is kind of an abstract concept using the rule of threes. It draws your eye to that one section. So I just needed to heavy it up a little bit. So I drew a line above and below the little saying. It also brings the saying out so that you can see it a little bit better. And I think I draw a little bit around the dog where some of the lines were missing. And I add a little bit of white Posca to his eyes and some highlights to the boy. And then I think that's it pretty much. Oh, right here there was a little bump sticking out. So I trimmed it off with scissors. But anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this video. There'll be lots more ATCs through the month of June. Um, give me a thumbs up. Leave me a comment or question. Join us. You can make an ATC and then use the hashtag ATCAD2018 any place on social media to join in. I'm posting mine every day on Instagram. So that's it for me. Thanks. Bye bye.